We don't talk a lot about goats on our program, or not that we wouldn't want to, but it just never seems to come up. So I'm very excited to have you on to focus on this amazing animal. What can you tell us about goats that our average listener may not know?
Oh gosh, yeah, they're very incredible beings. I find them to be very dog-like. They have a very high sense of curiosity. They love to explore and oftentimes get into trouble. They're just very confident by nature, and they're very social. They're very different than sheep. Sheep, I think, are also wonderful individuals and a wonderful species, but they tend to think more of a group in a group mentality. They tend to be a little bit more conserved, whereas goats are just like confident. Let's go get it. What's going on? So they're very fun. They are ruminants, so they have multiple chambers to their stomach or their digestive system. And they have a very good peripheral vision. They can see 340 degrees around. So, obviously it helps them avoid predation in the wild.
Welcome to the Better Life for Animals podcast, where we amplify the voices of animal advocates, sanctuaries, and changemakers working toward a kinder, more compassionate world. Through powerful stories and expert insights, we shine a light on the efforts to rescue, protect, and advocate for animals. Be sure to subscribe wherever you're watching or listening. Every follower helps us reach more people. And support animal sanctuaries. Enjoy the conversation.
Our guest today is Deborah Blum. Deborah is the founder and executive director of Goatlandia Farm Animal Sanctuary in Santa Rosa, California. A former swimwear designer, restaurateur, and commercial pilot, Deborah's life took a compassionate turn when her love for animals inspired her to go vegan and began rescuing farmed animals. Today, she leads Goatlandia with a joyful philosophy of kindness, promoting plant-based living, and showing that goats and all animals deserve lives free from harm and fear. Deborah, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, thank you so much for having me, Cheryl.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Now, you have spent many years in the restaurant world before you founded Goatlandia. Can you describe that moment when you first saw that social media video that made you truly aware of the suffering behind the food industry?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I like to tell people in speaking engagements that my two great loves in my life have been food and animals. And that's still the case. Restaurants, I was always a kid that finished all my food. I just love food in general. So, my whole life revolved around food and hospitality. And that one day when I happened across a speech by Gary Yourofsky and I witnessed slaughterhouse footage and I learned the very much hidden facts behind dairy,
Mm.
it kind of caused my two worlds to collide. And I realized that I love animals so much that I just could no longer support what I was seeing. And I couldn't support an injury or an industry that was so unkind and detrimental to our environment. So it forced me to have this sort of very big conversation with myself I felt like in order to be authentic and true to myself, I had to change the way I eat and the way I live. So it was a really wonderful moment of awakening, and I'm very happy with everything that's come from that.
Well, tell us how that progressed. You realized you can't do this anymore, and what happened
Yeah.
next?
So like everything in life, I tend to throw myself into things very deeply. So after that video, I changed the way I was eating. I went vegan overnight. And I like to use the word plant-based. It's a little less triggering for some folks, and then I threw myself to knowledge. I read books. I read Diet for a New America. I read the China Study. I started reading as much as I could and getting as much reliable information about the impacts of our choices. I visited animal sanctuaries. I went to farm sanctuary, animal place. I met, ranchers turned vegan animal activists, and I just threw myself into this whole way of living. And, at that time, I was wondering, how can I share this newfound joy and health that I discovered with others? So, I was kind of in this place where I was like, should I keep donating to these sanctuaries that I know about? Or is there another avenue I could take? One of the things I considered doing was, using my restaurant hospitality background to meet with restaurateurs and help them transition to a menu that's more friendly towards those who are plant-based, by convincing them that, hey, there's this other market that you might be missing. These are the products you can use. These are the recipes you can use. But I made the decision to start Goatlandia, largely because I feel like it was needed in the Sonoma County area. This is a very, agriculturally based area, and while we don't have a lot of CAFOs here, there is still there's a very big ag presence. So I felt like the work needed to be done here, and I really wanted to work with animals, so that's what kind of led me to my choice to start Goatlandia.
So you went out and found land and transitioned
Yeah,
your existing restaurant?
I already had land. I already had
Okay.
land. I'd bought the house I lived in probably a year before this, well, 6 months before the transition to eating plant-based, but a year and a half before I started Goatlandia. So I already had the property. It was just about starting to rescue animals. And then that was 2 acres, and that was a place in Santa Rosa, which is our birthplace. And then a couple years later, I met the man who is now my husband. And he was in organic wholesale produce industry for a while, a long time. And then we decided I really needed his help at the sanctuary, so he quit his job and started volunteering with me. And then we decided that 2 acres wasn't enough, that we were able to have such a big impact and rescue so many animals that we bought a new property in Sebastopol. So that's where we are now. So we have 36 acres total, and we're in the final stages of building that out. All the animals are here in Sebastopol with us. So yeah, lots happened since then.
I should say.
Yeah.
Goatlandia Kitchen emerged from your catering projects, I understand, and is both a fundraiser and a form of advocacy.
Yeah, so when I started Goatlandia, I was trying to think of creative ways to generate revenue, besides the small amount of donations we had at the time. So I started catering, and I started by giving food to people in the community. I'd get emails about things going on in Sonoma County, and I'd call the owner and be like, "Hey, do you want donated food?" I just started giving food away. And everyone loved our food. So I started doing catering out of my house, which is, not the ideal situation and not exactly how it should be done. So during COVID, we bought a restaurant in Sebastopol that was an old barbecue restaurant, and we converted it into a commercial kitchen. And then because of my love of restaurants, I was like, well, we're already here. Let's just open a restaurant. So we functioned as a restaurant for 3 months, and we were doing catering for individuals, businesses, other animal rescue organizations. So we had that space for almost 4 years. And we recently made the difficult decision to shut it down because it was far too difficult to try and run the sanctuary and all the animals and the acreage and all our programs and the restaurant commercial kitchen. So it was great while we had it. Our food is in high demand, but I made the difficult decision. I had to focus on our primary mission. So we're no longer doing Goatlandia Kitchen anymore, but we are pivoting to more dinners and food events at the sanctuary, which is even better because we have this beautiful property. So we do quarterly events for our members here that always involve food. And next spring, we're going to start doing fundraising dinners, kind of like outstanding in the field type concept. Come to the sanctuary, have a really nice 5-course dinner, wine pairings.
Sounds beautiful.
Yeah. So that's where we're at now. Still doing food. I will never get away from food.
And I don't think that you should
Yeah.
because they're connected, aren't they? This
Mhm.
is the mystery we're trying to unhook here is,
Mhm.
most people would never support the cruelty that's going on if they really took a moment to know what's going on. So I love
Indeed.
what you've done here with, opening up a sanctuary and understanding that in order to be sustainable and to reach out to more
Mhm.
people, you need to do it through food.
Yeah, it's a very impactful tool. And I agree with you, Cheryl, that a lot of people I know that are plant-based for life, it's because they've seen something very difficult. They've seen some difficult video footage or they've witnessed something firsthand. But people need to come to that of their own action. It's really difficult to bring people to see things like that. It usually has a negative effect. So I like to lead with inspiration and invitation. And And food. I mean, everybody loves food. We do it, we eat 3 times a day,
That's right.
most of us. So, I think our fork is a really strong tool, not only to fight climate change, but to impact people and create, different choices to impact behavior change. So yeah, food is definitely a great way. And I found, we ran a program called Lunchtime Takeover, and we went into businesses and gave them free lunch. And we talk about what we do at Goatlandia, and we talk about the food that we made and the importance of eating organic, health benefits of eating plants over animals. And it was really impactful. People were like, wow, I had no idea. Or this is vegan. I'd hear that all the time. This is vegan. Like, I'm eating this. It tastes so good. Like, it has mayonnaise in it. And so those kind of things are really impactful. So I think food is a great tool. I'd like to see more of it happening.
Do you find that that's where people are most surprised that this is all delicious food and most
Yeah.
things are vegan?
Yeah.
You
They're
start
very, I
thinking of
mean,
it that way, or plant-based, as you like to say.
yep, they're very surprised. They're surprised when I make chicken salad sandwiches, or, I've done cooking classes in the past and taught people how to make cashew cream, which is one of the best tools you can have in your toolbox. So yeah, people are very surprised because I think it's my belief that omnivores don't go into a restaurant or a grocery store looking for plant-based products. They really don't. So if we can bring them to them and have them try them, and show them how good they taste and how yes, you can eat organic and clean. You don't have to eat all the processed stuff if you don't want. That's really huge, because I don't think omnivores go looking for those products or those recipes or those foods in general. So we need to create a bridge to get people to try those things. And I think food, especially giving away plant-based food, is a great way to do that.
So you have a farm on your property.
Yeah, we are a certified organic farm. We're certified by CCOF. In the past, we've had some small crops. We've done pumpkins, and this year we did pumpkins and corn and sunflowers. But we just hired a farm manager that has some really great farming experience. So they are working right now on setting up our plan for the spring. So we just amended and seeded all of our pastures with really great grasses for the animals. And now we're focusing on putting up our hoop house and getting a growing plan up. And we're still kind of fine tuning what we want to do with that program. Definitely a CSA to generate revenue and help feed our community. But what I really also want to do, and open to suggestions from anybody on this, is how to bring this really nourishing, organic, local food to people that need it the most. So, I'd like to find areas of our community, people in our community that need food. And now, with SNAP probably going away, this needs even greater. But how do we bring this knowledge and this product to people that really need it? Some of my visions are bringing people in the community that don't know how to grow their own food, or how easy it can be to grow their own food in their own backyard even, and teach them that and let them work in the soil and be outside in the sun and taste what they're picking and send them home with recipes. Things like that empower people to be more involved in their health and their food. And that's such a powerful thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What I'm hearing is the combination of the two sounds very sustainable. One of the things we like to focus on Better Life for Animals is trying to help those sanctuaries, and so many of them are struggling. And as I'm listening to you, I'm thinking, well, maybe it's the garden piece, it's that food piece that if at all possible, they need to incorporate. And I'm sure, as you said, it helps with your fundraising efforts in order to keep
Mhm.
things afloat. So there's
Yeah.
a really important thought. And as you said, with all that's happening with our food systems and our programs are, in jeopardy, there's more and more of a call to think for yourself as to what can I grow right on in my own yard.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think that's exciting. It feels powerful. It's empowering, and that's I think the direction we need to go. We need to, it sounds very funny, but power to the people. We need to teach people to be able to have more connection with their food and grow their own food. And that's the beauty of plants. You have this one tomato, and inside that one tomato are all these seeds, and each seed is another plant. I mean, the exponential power in plants to feed ourselves is just, it's very exciting.
You're listening to Better Life for Animals podcast. Our mission is to amplify the voices of animal advocates, sanctuaries, and change makers working toward a kinder, more compassionate world. but we can't do it alone. We need your help. First of all, go ahead and subscribe to this channel wherever you're watching or listening. And then get involved by visiting betterlifeforanimals.com. That's betterlifeforanimals.com. Be sure to check out our blog, learn more about incredible sanctuaries, and explore our book section, where 100% of net proceeds from book sales are donated to sanctuaries. Every action you take helps to make a difference. And remember, subscribe to this channel. And now, back to the show.
If you're just joining us, we're speaking with Deborah Blum of Goatlandia Animal Sanctuary, and this is Better Life for Animals. You know, we don't talk a lot about goats on our program, or not that we wouldn't want to, but it just never seems to come up. So I'm very excited to have you on to focus on this amazing animal. What can you tell us about goats that our average listener may not know?
Oh gosh, yeah, they're very incredible beings. I find them to be very dog-like. They have a very high sense of curiosity. They love to explore and oftentimes get into trouble. They're just very confident by nature, and they're very social. They're very different than sheep. Sheep, I think, are also wonderful individuals and wonderful species, but they tend to think more of a group in a group mentality. They tend to be a little bit more conserved. Whereas goats are just like confident, let's go get it, what's going on, so they're very fun. They are ruminants, so they have multiple chambers to their stomach or their digestive system. And they have a very good peripheral vision. They can see 340 degrees around. So, obviously it helps them avoid predation in the wild. Both male and female goats have horns. There's a lot of different breeds of goats. So we have a lot of different breeds represented here at the sanctuary. And they're actually not grazers. People think they're grazers.
Oh,
Goats are actually browsers. So given the option, they will choose to eat leaves and shrubs and things that are higher up, even bark, versus grass, where sheep are
interesting. I didn't
grazers.
know that.
Yeah, they're browsers. Yeah.
Do you mix your animals up together, or do you let them find their own friends, or do
Mm,
you keep them to their own breeds?
Yeah, we try and keep species separate because of the nutritional requirements. So, for example, goats need a lot of copper, sheep need and definitely, will be healthier with less copper. Also because of the size and strength, we do see a couple interspecies relationships. Right now, we have a rooster living with our goat, Ruthie B. Goat, who's named after Ruth Bader Ginsburg. In general, we keep species somewhat separate because of those reasons, the nutritional needs. However, sometimes we get a group of animals that are bonded that are interspecies. Like we have 4 goats that came with our alpaca. And in that case, we keep that group together because the emotional, turbulence that would come from splitting them up isn't something that we want to create, and it's not beneficial for them. So, when groups come together, interspecies groups, we generally tend to keep them together. But overall, the chickens are separate from the cows and the goats are separate from the ducks, so to speak. So,
Okay. Sounds
and
like.
it's safer.
Can you share like a moment with one particular goat that really changed your understanding? I know there's so oftentimes it's that one story that just
Yeah.
really moves hearts and
Oh,
minds.
there's so many. There's so many, but there's one story in particular. We have a goat named Guapo. He is an Arapawa, which is a very obscure breed that I just learned about. And he has an interesting story. He was from an area called Canyon, California. That's pretty close to Berkeley and Oakland, but it's in this little canyon, and it's there's one long road in and one long road out, so it's not very accessible. And his owner had died, and Guapo was left tied up to a tether. He had a buck apron on because he's an intact male, and he was just kind of left, like because she died sort of unexpectedly. He was just left there. So he eventually broke his tether and was wandering around Canyon, California, living in the woods for several months. And someone contacted us and said, "Hey, there's a stray goat with this, plastic thing hanging from his neck and the buck apron." So we got a team of people because we used to do animal rescue and evacuation, and we tried to go catch him, but we weren't able to catch him. So we took a break and we waited a couple months, and the neighbors that lived there were putting food out and slowly befriending Guapo. And then one night they called and they're like, "We got him, we caught him, we come take him." So we drove to Canyon and got Guapo, and he's this very stunning black and brown goat with big, huge horns that are very
Mm.
wide. So my impression of him, seeing him and knowing that he'd been living in the woods, was this that he was going to be really aggressive and difficult to handle. And he was not that way at all. He was an older gentleman who was quite shy. And has been through a lot. So we took him to Davis and had him castrated surgically and got his health back up. And what I encountered with him after he came to Goatlandia, he was just really kind of a little shy and kind of nervous about what was going on. And he bonded very closely with me because I was his primary caregiver at the time. So anytime someone else would come in the pasture when I was around Guapo, he would like run over to me like he felt this need to protect me.
Oh,
And it's just very, it's very interesting to see animals experience trauma just like we do, change of scenery, loss of family, those things are real and they impact animals just like they impact us. So he bonded to me because he probably felt a little unsure and, a little nervous. And even to this day, we have a big team of volunteers and a small team of staff here, but he just bonded to me. So when I go and see him, he's like, he seems very happy to see me and he runs up to me and, definitely that's nice, but I'm also happy that we can give him the safe, loving home that he deserves. So it was interesting to see how the reality of an animal's personality sometimes can be different from our preconceptions.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Do you have any other ideas for fundraising? Because we just can't get enough of that on this
Oh,
show.
yeah. Fundraising is probably the single hardest part of my job.
Mm.
And especially now with the situation of the political situation we're in, funding is increasingly difficult. Fortunately, we're not federally funded. We don't get federal grants, so we are, funded by individual and foundation donations. I have a lot of ideas for fundraising. My only limitations are time and money. So one of I mean, there's so many things. Definitely growing the crops and setting up a CSA. We make a lot of funding from our tour revenue, from our bottle baby program that we do when we rescue all these dairy kids. We have a very robust adoption program. One of my ideas that I love is creating a mobile sanctuary experience. So I'd like to get a small school bus and set it up as Goatlandia on the go and bring the sanctuary experience to schools. Because there's definitely, of course, there's virtual visits and things like that, but it's much easier to bring one bus to the school than bringing 30 kids to us. So I would like to set up this mobile sanctuary experience and go to sanctuaries and talk to kids about animals and how wonderful they are and how, they are individuals and do some humane education. And I'd love to get that program going. And certainly that's not a huge area for revenue because schools don't have a lot of money, but I think that it's something that would be really welcome. We see a lot of demand from schools wanting this kind of humane education. So I think that's a revenue stream that has yet to be developed. I think that also, we're launching an animal assisted healing program. We've done a little bit in the past, and we certainly work with organizations now that come to us, but we want to provide some animal healing visits for people in the community that have experienced loss or trauma or victims of domestic abuse and violence. So starting in December, we're going to invite those individuals to the sanctuary for breath work and sound healing therapy, animal time, a nutritious, nourishing, beautiful meal. So that we're launching in December. And I think that's a nice way to bring some healing to the community, but also potentially make some revenue if we can get funding for that through foundations and grants. So,
Is
yeah.
goat yoga a real thing?
Go yoga is a thing. We've done it in the past. It's not quite what everybody envisions. Everybody thinks, you're going to have this goat on your back the whole time. And that's not really the way it works. They'll come over and investigate and see what's going on. And, oftentimes they'll just poop on your mat and leave. So we don't really do so much of goat yoga per se, but we do wellness days, where we've had like, starting off with a nice like relaxing yoga session and then followed up by a smoothie and then we'll do a tour of the sanctuary. So we'll definitely continue to do some wellness days. We also do kids camp in the summer, which has been really popular. So we're looking to expand that. Um, and the kids come here and it's a day camp for a week long and they eat plant-based and organic. They do all kinds of different projects. They learn about environmental practices, empathy and inclusion, um, working in the soil, taking care of the animals, definitely spending time with the animals. So we'd like to expand that. And I also want to do an adult camp. So every year when we're planning our camp, I'm like, oh, this sounds so fun. I want to do all these projects. I want to, do all these fun things. So this next year in 2026, we're going to do an adult camp. So, and we're going to do that on a Saturday, and we're going to have all kinds of fun things for adults, because I think camp is fun. So why don't we just, celebrate the child in all of us and do some fun things? So we're going to do that. I have a lot of ideas, a lot of fun ideas and ways to engage with the community and meet the needs. So.
It's amazing, Deborah. We need all those ideas. We
Mhm.
need to get very creative to, be able to support our sanctuaries because they're so
Yeah,
so important. You have
yeah,
such an incredible background. I, resonated with so much of it. You like fashion. I like fashion. You care about, a lot of different things, and I can see that spark in you, which I
yeah.
appreciate. But isn't it fun to evolve as a person? We started off one way, thinking one thing, and then as we go on, we learn that, maybe it's not like that, and we have more capacity than we recognized. And, one of the things I like to say is we're such a small movement that we need
Mhm.
more of us.
Yes,
All are welcome, right?
all are welcome. And I think that's a really important approach to keep in mind. Certainly when I first transitioned to being vegan and eating plant-based, I was this like, I like to call them born again vegans. And I was like, everybody needs to know this. And had all the t-shirts and the bumper stickers. And I just had this really newfound enthusiasm. And that's great. And I still have that. But I think it's also important that, we need to meet people where they are. And we need to communicate in a way that is open and inviting and not judgmental. And I think that's a really important thing, especially for our movement, for the animal welfare movement. I just came back from a wonderful summit in Atlanta called the Reducitarian
Oh,
Summit.
yes, yes. I'm
And it was
familiar.
great, to hear all this wonderful research and policy change that's happening certainly in the movement, but in different sectors than what I see, day to day here at the sanctuary. So, and they are very much about like, hey, we have to start with small incremental change, and we have to t treat everybody with respect. And that includes dairy people and ranchers and farmers. And, they're human beings after all. So the same compassion that we have in our heart for animals, we really need to continue to have that for humans. And that means all humans, everybody's on their own path and everybody is going to make change in the way that's most comfortable for them. And we need to create space for that to happen. So it's very important to us to be inviting and inspirational and to be inclusive to everybody in the community. And I think that's the best way to impact people and make a change, is through inspiration and invitation. It's not through judgment. So we strive to be as inclusive and open and kind to everybody every day as we can.
Well, when we say better life for animals, we mean people as well. And you're absolutely right.
Absolutely.
We have to almost start with humans because
Hmm.
they are the ones who have the choice to make a
Yep.
different, decision.
Yeah. And we have to be kind to ourselves and that, and it's sort of like in order to do this work, you have to make sure that your bucket's full. You have to take care of yourself emotionally, spiritually, physically, whatever you feel like you need to be able to reach out and give that to others. And I think helping animals and helping humans is so closely aligned. I like to say that we're trying to we're trying to model a way of living that puts our actions in alignment with our values. Most everybody I know wants to be healthy. They want to do the things they love. They want to enjoy time with friends and family. And, animals have those same desires also. And if we can change our behavior, we're really living in a way that supports those values and ideals. And that's really powerful. Um, so that's what we try and do is create a space for that to happen both here at Sanctuary and in the community. Yeah.
Beautifully put, Deborah. Before we say goodbye, is there anything you'd like to share with us that we didn't cover?
Oh Gosh, I don't think so. We hit on a lot of topics. Yeah, the one thing that I'd love to express is just my appreciation for everybody in this movement. It's, we're in difficult times right now, and I think a lot of us feel powerless and feel like we don't make a difference. What can one individual do? And I just want to remind everybody and myself that every action has an impact and that butterfly effect is a real thing. And I think that the best thing that we can remember right now is that every action is important. Every action has a value. And we often don't see the results of our actions, and it starts with us. If we can wake up in the morning and be kind to ourselves and celebrate the victories and focus on the positive and attract that positive energy, that's the best thing that we can do to spread kindness and spread compassion and health and awareness. So, don't lose heart. Know that there's so many of us out here doing this good work. And I'm honored and grateful to be part of this movement and to have so many other people out there doing good work. And I'm just grateful to be part of this community.
I feel the same way. Well, let's not leave before you tell us where we can find you and how we
Yes.
can help you.
Yes. So our website is really simple. It's goatlandia.org. And we love people to visit, follow us on social media, certainly support us financially if you can. Yeah, and we're in Sebastopol. We love visitors. We have a very robust adoption program, and we have some really cute baby goats that we just rescued that need bottle feeding. So if anybody wants to come help with that, that would be appreciated. And help comes in all forms. It's donating, it's sharing the word, it's embodying what we're about, practicing kindness. Eat a plant-based meal one day a week. Whatever you can do, it all helps. It's all going to a better future for animals and people and the planet.
Very good.
Yeah.
This has been Deborah Blum, and we are at Better Life for Animals, and I'm Cheryl Moss. Thank you so much for listening, and if you've enjoyed it, please like and subscribe so that we can create a better life for animals.
Wonderful. Thank you, Cheryl.
Thank you, Deborah.
Thank you for joining us on the Better Life for Animals podcast. Together, we can create a world where all beings are treated with dignity, respect, and care. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe, rate, and review wherever you're listening. It helps us reach more people and spread awareness about the incredible work happening in animal sanctuaries. You can also share this episode with friends and fellow advocates to keep the conversation going. Until next time, keep speaking up, taking action, and making a difference for the animals.